Yo, what's up, YouTube? Welcome to another episode of Constructive Critique. We're going to do things a little bit differently going forward. We're going to actually incorporate some of our amazing photographers in the community. And here today, we have Jared Gant of JM Gant Photography. Jared, welcome, brother.
Hey, thank you.
So Jared's based out of Denver. He shoots primarily weddings, and his work is incredible. Check it out on your own. He's sponsored by Magmod. He's also one of our new SR Lounge ambassadors as well. So if you guys have questions in the community, you guys are going to see him popping in now and then and helping out in the community page. Should we jump into this, dude?
Let's do it.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and shrink you down a little bit.
Okay.
And we'll increase this guy over here. We're going to pull up our very first studio shot, which is the fitness shot. Now, I like... You've seen Lee and Patrick's critique videos, which I love. So on F-Stoppers, they have their own critique side. And I like it when they do their like little, all right, on the count of three, like we're going to say a score type thing.
Right.
We're not going to jack their scoring system. But we will steal the whole 1, 2, 3 thing. Okay, so our scoring system, just so you guys understand, is 1 through 10. It follows the same as our award and critiquing system, but it essentially works like this. 1 is an image that has little to no merit, and we're very often not going to be giving out 1s. Most of the time, we're not going to give out 1s. I don't think any image is really a 1. A 5 is considered what a professional would do in that situation. Now we're talking about just a typical professional photographer setting at professional lighting. That's what the typical person would do. Anything above that is stepping beyond what just the normal kind of professional would think to do. And reaching 10 is like kind of award-winning, portfolio-deserving image that can see no wrong, which we're going to give out very few of those as well.
Right.
So most of you, somewhere in between. You ready to do this, man?
Let's do it.
All right. How should we do this? Should we clap? 1, 2. I don't know. What
It's
makes
like rock,
sense?
paper, scissors.
Rock, paper, scissors. Okay. Give this one a look, and let's see here. All right. I'm ready.
I'm ready as well.
Okay. I'm going to go 5.
Okay. I'm going 7.
7.
Yeah, I like the image.
What the heck, man? Tell me why you think this is a 7.
Well, maybe we need to figure out our rating system first. Maybe we haven't found the
No, this is perfect. No, justify your 7.
Yeah, there's a lot going on here. I really like the lighting coming from the 2 different angles. I think it looks great. I like the background. The only thing that I would have done is I would have made it just a little bit more dramatic. I would have intensified the shadows and just made it a little bit more drama in there. I like the idea of the water. Kind of the droplets, the idea and concept behind it, but I feel like it's a little overkill. She almost looks like she was playing in the sprinklers versus sweating. It doesn't look as natural.
Yeah. Either that or she just sweats a ton. But it looks like the dumbbell's also sweating, so everybody's just hot in that room right now.
Right, and her hair is completely dry. So.
Okay, so the sweat effect needs to be a little bit more convincing.
Sweat effect toned down. I like the direction of the light. Like I said, I just wish it was a little bit more. Just a little bit more dramatic in there. Typically, I feel like with fitness photos, you're trying to show that muscle definition, and you can do that by showing those shadows and the abs and things like that.
Yeah. Okay. So for me, I kind of feel like I'm gonna readjust to a. Can I change to a 6?
Go for it. It's your show, man.
I'm gonna change to a 6.
Okay.
And my justification is we have, more than one light. Like there's a lot of control that's going into this. You've got 2 lights being set up. You've also got a background light. And they've also matched the background light to the color of her outfit. And so I think that's really nice. The kind of coordination that's being done there. And gosh dang it, Jared, you might have me at the 7. You had me at 7, Jared. Okay, I was overly critical when we started this, but I do feel like I'm somewhere between a 6 and a 7, and the reason why I'm kind of putting it down a peg is because I don't necessarily feel like the lighting matches the subject matter, in the sense of, like, what you guys see in this image is a very dramatic portrait, and it's very dramatically lit, but I don't necessarily see her in a dramatic pose, if that makes sense. Like,
It does, yeah.
Do you kind of know what I'm saying, Jared? Like,
Hmm.
the light doesn't fit. The light is designed for this like kind of action vibe, this in the moment, and yet it looks like this is very effortless. Like she's barely even moving or putting any motion into this. And so for this specific shot, I kind of feel like a softer light would have been better with less deep shadows versus like if we were going to go for something that is on the dramatic side. So that's my kind of thought, is that what separates this between, you know, the 7, 8, 9, 10 is really not matching the light to the actual action in the photograph.
So either change the action or change the light, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I
also
get it.
like from a fitness standpoint, because I do shoot a lot of fitness work. From a fitness standpoint, we've kind of lost her abs actually in the light, so we didn't get enough of that raking design to bring out the definition. You can see that she has core definition, like you can see it on this side, but we lost it right here. We also don't see like a lot of vascularity in the veins and those kind of things. And she is clearly very lean and very muscular. So if she did like a brief pre-pump where she just does some exercise and you kind of keep the room warm, she'll actually get very vascular and it'll show up in the photographs and make it look more dramatic, more dynamic. But I agree with you on everything else, on all the, you know, the other points, like the hair, there's no water on the face. You know, we need to kind of be doing a more convincing job of that.
Right, right.
Oh, we didn't even. Oh my goodness, we didn't even
What
say
do we
who
got?
shot this.
Oh,
This was shot by Jan Skirfield of Your Sacred Images. So Jan, great work. Hopefully this was helpful. As is, it's a nice image. Shall we go to the next one?
let's do it.
Okay. This was shot by David J. Crew. You guys know David. He actually is working on the SR Lounge team, and he's also a fantastic photographer. We thought we'd throw this in there and rip him a new one. So,
Beautiful image.
all right, Jared, give it a glance.
Yeah, I'm looking at it here.
It's a really interesting photograph. Really beautiful.
Okay.
All right, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right, you go first.
I'm going to give it an 8.
All right, that's about where I'm at too. I'm at an 8.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, why an 8?
I think it's a gorgeous image. I love what he's doing with the gels and the color and adding that in the back there. I think it looks really awesome. Love her pose. Love her style with the outfit and everything. Makeup and everything looks on point. I'm digging it. This is a phenomenal image.
I like it too, and I'm trying to figure out exactly what it is that I would critique about it, because it's difficult. Like,
It is.
there are some points in here that I feel like aren't quite lining up, and one of those is that the color mix to me is just a bit off. Because I have not only, I love the orange and purple tones, but I also see a lot of green tones coming through on the skin, and I
That's good.
don't
Yeah.
feel like those tones kind of fit the rest of the image. I think I would have liked a more neutral color tone there, like, you know, to separate everything. I also feel like the jawline could have been pulled back a little bit, kind of towards camera, because if you look where, I don't know if you guys can see where my mouse is, but on this right side where her jawline connects to her neck, we lose some of the jaw definition, and her nose is almost too far over where like we don't see her other eye. So if we pulled the chin back a little bit, we'd see more light landing on the face and see a little bit more of the face in the eye. And those are kind of my big pieces of critique, is kind of the green skin tones and those notes on the lighting. But otherwise, the only probably other thing I'd say is I look at this and I feel like it's slightly over retouched in the
That
skin.
was going to be my thought there. Yeah. I
Yeah.
feel like the skin tones are a little bit overly retouched. A little too much going on there.
Yeah, she looks almost a little bit porcelain-like, and the highlights on the face I think could have a little bit more kick to them, to kind of like, you know, and maybe you do that in post, but just lifting those highlights a little bit to kind of like really dry out and dodge.
Right. Do you think the green that you're seeing on the skin tones, is that just the mixture of the gels that he's using, just trying to, or is he adding anything else there that's causing that green?
I kind of feel like it's being added. Either that or it's reflecting off of something green and coming into the photograph.
Yeah.
But it seems like there might be a green fill that's on the face already. And the
Okay.
background is purple, and then the additional lights that are being added are oranges.
Hmm.
So I think to me what's kind of like the biggest piece is just the colors just quite they're just a hair off of syncing up for me.
Yeah, I see. I definitely noticed the green. It doesn't bother me all that much because this is obviously a very creative image, and so the coloring is all going to be off anyway. So it's not bothering me that much. Really, the only thing that stands out to me when I first glance at it is the over retouch of the skin. It does look porcelain-esque, like you said.
Yeah. All right, man. Let's go to the next one.
Love it, Dave.
We got Bobby Brown. Oh, David, by the way, that was a fantastic image. Really nice. Bobby Brown Photography. We actually just looked at her website. So let's now critique this studio portrait.
Okay, let me look here.
All right. I'm going to say on this one that we have to say it out loud at the same time.
Okay, ready?
Wait, does it work when we're, when there's a delay here? Here,
I don't know.
you count it.
Okay, on three?
On 3.
Okay, 1, 2, 3.
5. All right.
Okay.
Okay, why you got a 5?
Well, I started last time.
Dang it, man. All right.
So I can say a few things. The first thing that stands out to me, the backdrop is a little bit distracting. Like there's some wrinkles going on there and uneven lighting and everything. So that's the first thing before you even take the picture that just needs to be addressed and looked at and considered. It would just be that backdrop needs to be taken care of.
I actually might drop it to a 4, dude, to be honest. Because I think that backdrop, in addition to the hair, that kind of drops it to like a 4-ish. I feel like as a professional, those are things that you guys should be kind of paying attention and watching. That would fall into my, average criteria. Not average, a professional photograph criteria. That's what a 5 is, right?
Yep, I agree. And that was the second thing I was just going to go at is the hair. Either just needs to be cleaned up before you take the photo, a little extra hairspray, a little pulling it down. But with the young girl, I know that can be tough. She's probably playing a little bit. So maybe just in post, a little bit of touch up on those outer pieces that are kind of hanging out there would make a huge difference, I think.
And from a lighting standpoint, sometimes we get so wrapped in the photograph, I forget to talk about lighting. I actually really like the lighting. I like the way that it's kind of falling off towards the bottom of the frame and like the pattern's kind of getting darker. I would probably honestly create a little more separation between the subject and the background. So the background is more kind of a little bit darker and deeper of a color. I think it'll have a nice richness to it. But the light quality is spot on for the type of portrait that you're aiming at, Bobby. So that's a huge win right there. The only other thing too, Jared, is do you see that they're kind of looking just barely off camera?
The mom or the mom figure looks like she's looking in camera.
I almost feel like both of them are looking like it's almost as if I held the camera and I was like, okay, guys, just look right here at my fingers.
Making eye contact with the photographer, maybe, and she has it on a tripod or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, could be. The little girl definitely is looking off.
Yeah, so
that would be just to get the girl looking that way. I mean, maybe she had a puppet in her hand or something like that to get the little girl looking that direction, and that took her off axis just a little bit.
It could be. Probably the only other thing I'd mention is just watching the crops. It kind of feels awkward. Like we're cropped at this weird in-between point right now where the fingers and the waist and everything is cut off. Right. I would have either brought it up or brought it down, but right now it's kind of right in between everything.
Is this cropped for an 8 by 10? Is that why?
I don't know. It looks like it might be square crop, but it looks like the sides were cut off, not the top and bottom.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
All right. Great job, Bobby. Bobby. All right.
What's
Here
next?
This one is from Alessandro Spedito of Alessandro Spedito Photography. So Alessandro, a lot to do with this image is very captivating to me. Namely, like I love the skin tones and the eyes. I didn't even. Gosh dang it, Jared. We suck at this. Man. I suck at this. We didn't even give a score.
Okay, let's do this. I was still looking at it for the first time. All right.
I'm gonna do a little test here. I'm gonna do a little test while you're doing that.
Okay.
All right, you got a number?
I do.
Okay, on 3. 1, 2, 5.
I'm giving it a
What?
7.
That's funny. I said 1, 2, and then I like waited for several seconds. And then,
Right.
all right. Why do you give it? You got to go first to justify that 7. What the hell,
Yeah.
man?
Yeah. Everything about this I really like, except I feel like it's actually just a little bit underexposed. I wish it was a half a stop or so brighter, universally across the entire image. And I think that would help with, kind of how her shirt is disappearing at the bottom of the image. There's no separation there in the backdrop. I think that would kind of help a little bit there. I like the lighting. I like the shadows. It's beautiful there. Her pose is intriguing, and kind of her expression is really intriguing. It kind of pulls me in a little bit, makes me stick around and look at the photo a little longer.
Yeah.
So those are some of the things I really like about it. Like I said, I feel like it's a little bit dark. I wish that there was either, a kicker, rim lights, a second light added, or the backdrop was lit up just a little bit or something, just so that we could see her body a little bit better.
Yeah, that's honestly my main thing. And if that were done, I would give it a 7 as well. But because that's not done, I feel like that's like kind of falls into your job as the professional, is like making sure that, because what I see here is when you're wearing black on black, it's not necessarily a bad thing, right? Like you have a really cool, like kind of classic portrait look, but we at least need to see some definition in the shirt so it doesn't look like there's a floating head.
Right.
And right now I kind of get the sense that there's this like floating head in the shot, and you can barely see any detail below that. That is my main issue. I agree with you that I love her expression, and the lighting on the face looks beautiful. I would probably dodge the face just a tiny bit to get the highlights to stand out a little bit more. But yeah, otherwise it's a really beautiful photograph, and this could easily be a 7 or an 8. I would say to pull it up to an 8, if it's possible, bring her chin just a little bit more to the left side so it's into the light just a little bit more, and that would define. Do you see this like ripple in her jawline on the left side?
I do. Yep.
It's not necessarily like flattering because it's just catching that curve. Whereas if it was pulled to the left a little bit more, you'd get a better defined jawline on the right side and deeper shadows kind of dropping off, and you'd have a really interesting look in the image. But I like her look, and I think it's a really nice picture otherwise. They're very
Right.
easy fixes, I think, to get this up to a 7.
Right. Like I said, and I pulled it into the develop module and bumped it up, like I said, about a half a stop. And I feel like
So funny.
that does a fair amount to it. I like that.
That's exactly what I did when you were looking at the image. I was like, I want to test something.
Yeah.
All right. Next image is by Christian Bakker of Christian Bakker Photography. Give it a look-see. I'm ready when you are.
Yeah, I'm ready as well.
Oh, I wasn't thinking about a number, though.
Okay. Do you have your number?
Don't make fun of me. Carla's
Yeah,
laughing at me now.
Yeah, Carlos, I have to remind you. Have a sign.
All right. Thinking of my number here. It's a tough one, dude.
Yeah. You ready?
Yeah. Okay, go.
1, 2, 3, 7.
5.
5 again. I think I'm just a little bit friendlier than you. If we're going to be honest, I think that's what it is.
You don't look a little bit friendlier. You look like you're gonna like beat someone up, dude.
If anyone knows me, that they would know that's not the case.
I know. You're like the nicest guy I've ever met. Okay. So I'm gonna go first. I'm gonna justify why I give it a 5.
Okay, go for it.
Part of it has to do with post-production, and I know that's not lighting issue, but like I don't like the post on this image, and that kind of like knocked me down a peg. The other thing was, Christian, when I'm looking at the light, I actually see that you're kind of uplighting on the image. So you can tell because the shadow of the nose is going upwards. And what was the dead giveaway for me was the unnatural bags underneath the eyes. If you actually zoom in close on the image, you'll notice that there's a highlight in kind of the wrong place. Like instead of lighting the bags, we kind of light in an uplight way where you see this highlight on this right side. And it almost emphasizes the bags of the eyes as opposed to de-emphasizing them. So bringing the light source up a little bit would have been helpful, but I think I get what you're trying to do. I think you're trying to fill the eyes to make sure that you're getting the catch light, because if you bring it up too high, you're not going to get the catch light. And the simple fix to that is to tilt her chin and neck back and angle it a little bit more towards the light. and you'd get your catch light there. So that's my main thing, is that throughout the body, I kind of see this like upside lighting, and it kind of throws it off for me, is that it's a little bit unnatural. And then the post-production side is a little bit rough. But yeah, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, post-production stands out to me. That's the very first thing. Just the tones and the colors and are kind of just off. It does looks out of this world. Other thing as well is I don't like the crop. I wish her fingers were still in. I wish we were seeing just a little bit more of the chair, and just kind of pulled back just a little bit. And I don't. Yeah, and also like her leg and her knee and whatnot. I wish we were seeing that whole portion of her body a little bit more.
It'd be
so
nice,
just
yeah.
Just the angle, just back up just a little bit and kind of move into the right just a little bit, and then that would give her the opportunity, like you're saying, to kind of lift her jaw and kind of look up a little bit more, if you have that light above and to get that catch light. But the posing on it, I think, is kind of fun. I like that. I think it's intriguing. And I wasn't catching that with the light, but you're totally right about the light being down. You can see on her nose, it's kind of pointing up there, that shadow, and you can also see in the catch light, it's kind of on the lower part of her pupil.
Sweet.
But yeah, there you go.
Let's move on. We got the next one is Sean Dewitt. Sean, get into the studio work. I love it, man. Sean's been a long time member of ours, and let's give this a look-see.
Cool.
Let's see here. All right, I'm ready.
I'm doing a little editing on my side. No, I'm just kidding. All right, I'm ready as well.
Okay, on 3, 1,
Sure.
2, 7.
I was going to give it a 6.
Oh, I'm higher than you are now.
You are. My turn or your turn?
Let's hear why you're being harsh on this guy.
Well, I don't know if that's harsh. I think it's a
I gotta
really
add
cool
drama to this, bro.
Right. I think it's a cool image. I like the way she's sitting. I like the backdrop. All of that is set up really well. I feel like her foot's getting really close to the edge there, which is a little distracting to me and kind of pulling my eyes down into that area for whatever reason. I wish the lighting was just a little bit more interesting. That's why I'm giving it a little bit of lower scores. It just seems like a very safe, clean setup. And I wish in this situation that it was a little bit more, a little bit less safe, a little bit more going on there.
That's fair. So I would say I like the lighting a lot. I do feel like from a lighting standpoint, I think once again, if there were more space in the studio to pull back the backdrop so that the backdrop wasn't getting these kind of crazy highlights on it would be nice. But to me, there's certain things that like are propping it up. So trying this kind of like more avant-garde kind of pose is a +1 for me. Did you kind of nail it? I don't think so, Sean. Not quite. But it looks cool and it's interesting to look at. There's a lot of triangles. There's a lot of like kind of interesting shapes in the image. I like that she's posed on the seat, and I love that the lighting quality matches kind of the subject. I think it was a perfect choice of like, you know, what kind of lighting modifier to use for that kind of soft editorial portrait look. But I just think the background is kind of a little bit too bright and distracting, and it pulls away from it. What I would say to really pull this off is, other than the background and that lighting, is to really nail the pose. Right now it feels like the left leg, like Jared said, is extended too much off and almost going out of the frame. This exaggerated kind of very fashionistic pose it looks fantastic when it works, then it looks odd when it doesn't. You know what I mean, Jared? Like,
yeah, I get that.
It's almost kind of too exaggerated. And the other thing too is that her shirt's a little bit loose, and so it's hanging off the backside. So it kind of kills a little bit of the design of the pose. But I love what you're trying to do, and I would agree with the lighting that kind of Jared has mentioned. The other thing is, it looks like once again we've kind of over-retouched the face. Like, do you feel like we've lost all the texture, Jared?
Yeah, it does look like it's hard to say because these are, you know, compressed files, but
yeah.
But yeah, it does look a little bit too touched up, too plasticky or porcelainy.
It looks a little bit. And the other thing is the kink in the neck for me is like there's a kind of a very strong kink in the neck on both sides.
Right.
It's a little bit harsh. I love the fall off towards the bottom of the image though. I mean, this The lower half of the image is very, very pleasing to me in terms of the light and everything. And if the background matched that level of darkness throughout the entire image, it'd be really strong. Okay. Great job, Sean. Let's go on to Kendra Wilhelm.
Okay. Kendra. All right, maternity.
Give it a look-see. We got a maternity shot here.
I'm ready when you are.
I'm stuck here, dude. I'm stuck. What the heck? Okay, I'm good. You call it.
Okay, I'm gonna give this one a 4.
Man, I was at a 6.
This is good. This is why we have multiple people critiquing these, because as you can see, we obviously see different things in the images, and that's just how it's always going to be.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, so justify your 4.
Well, I'm trying to figure out what's going on, to be honest, with the background. If that is, well,
it's a little bit low resolution to tell, but I can see what you mean.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. I'm trying to decide if that is done in camera, if they're hitting a light against the backdrop or wall or seamless or whatever that is, or if they are in post almost just cranking the highlights and like masking it off almost.
Yeah, what I think it is, what it looks like to me is a ring flash. So it looks like a square or ring flash setup that has light going directly from the lens right onto her. And
yes.
Then that's like a very typical shadow pattern that you might see from that.
Right. The other things that immediately come to mind when I see it, I'm not really digging her pose. The hand on the stomach and then the second hand on the waist almost gives the impression that she's uncomfortable or just not, that she's uncomfortable or in pain or something like that.
She has that like holding your back feel, like the
right.
Yeah.
Right. And she's not holding her waist like, you might strategically have a bride hold her waist and pull her elbow back, but you're going to usually open up the hand on the waist versus having the hand pointed downward. That kind of hand downward on the waist, I think, is maybe more so what's giving the
100%
the impression that she's like hurting and she's like grabbing a sore back or a sore hip or something like that.
That's exactly what you'd do if your back did hurt. You'd kind of like push down with the palm and like, So from a body language standpoint, you're 100% right on. My thing is, I think from a lighting standpoint, it's really good. Like I like this. I like the look of a ring light, and when it's used against a white backdrop, and especially with like she's in black clothing, fair tone and skin. Like it's a very nice and well put together shot, and it's a nice use of modifier. That gives a big +1 in my book. That's above what the average professional would do. But what's knocking me back down from like I would have if this were posed well and the expression were nailed and everything else kind of went together, I would be up in the 8 and the 9s on this image. But like you said, that I have the same issue with that wrist, and it's really when the wrist is anytime the wrist is almost broken and bent all the way back into that right angle, it's almost always a bad thing. And in this case, when it's placed on the arch of her back, like Jared said, it creates that look. The other thing for me is there's some weird warping and manipulation going on towards the bottom of the frame. Like the way that the tummy is leading into the way that the dress is dropping in, it doesn't really kind of work for me. And what I would have rather seen is had you turn her body. Like, Jared, if she rolled her shoulder to the left and opened to the camera more, we would have been able to see kind of the other hand and where it's coming from a little bit. You would have been able to see her chest more, and it would have really accentuated the hips and the shape of her tummy without needing to like liquefy anything at the bottom of the frame.
Right, I agree.
The other thing for me is just the expression. The expression just feels forced. It feels like very, like it looks like her back legitimately hurts. Like she's like, this isn't fun.
Right. One other small critique here is just the crop, the very top of it and the very bottom. I just wish that we were seeing a little bit more space above her head, a little bit more space below her hand as well.
Yeah, a little bit too tight on both sides. So this is by Kendra Wilhelm of Kendra and Photography. Kendra, it's a really great shot. You have a shot here and a look that really could be, a wowzer, but we just need to tighten up a few things. So great work there.
I love that. Yeah, we're good.
Okay, so this one's from Jeff Smith of JMS Studio.
Okay, Jeff, let's see this one. Ow, ow. All right, I'm ready.
Okay, count it down.
Okay, 3, 2, 1. I'm going to give it
6.
a 5.
5.
That's where I'm at. We're
Okay.
close. We're
All
not
right.
that far off. First thing that stands out to me right away when I look at this image is the spill of light on the backdrop on the right side there. It just draws my eye immediately away from the couple for
That's
whatever
so
reason.
funny because I like stuff like that as a stylistic element.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely, if it's intentional,
You're right. It's kind of like
to me, it does not look intentional. To me,
Yeah.
at first glance, it looks like there's just a little bit, we have these two lights at like 10 and 2 or something like that. And it's just, maybe if it was gridded, or I don't know exactly how his light was set up, but it seems like there's a little bit too much spill coming off and hitting that backdrop. And so that's
You're
the
right.
very
Yeah.
first thing that stands out to me. It doesn't look intentional. And if it was intentional, I would almost expect it to be on both sides.
Yeah.
We obviously have lights coming from both sides. So that's the very first thing that stands out to me. What else? What do you see?
Well, I gave it a 6 because, one, when you're working in the studio and you're shooting, this isn't like a shot that most people would necessarily think of. Like, I'm going to shoot them in the shadows, and I'm going to go in, like, rim light on both sides, and I'm going to set up, 2 cross lights. And so I think that deserved a big +1 for me, where it's stepping out of the realm of, like, what you would typically shoot. But I agree with you. Like, the flare is it's not enough to be a flare, and it's just enough to look like a mistake. So it's not one or the other. My other issue is that his face isn't highlighted the same way hers is.
Too
So
close together.
yeah, the placement of the flash is causing a shadow to land right on his face, likely created by her or, the side of her cheek. So we need to adjust the pose just a little bit, or adjust the placement of the flash to actually even that out. Then the only other thing for me is that, honestly, like, it does nothing for me knowing that this shot is taken in a studio. Like, seeing their feet and seeing that this is like a backdrop does nothing. But if you were to, like, crop this down, and if this were focused on, is it cheating for me to, like, make these adjustments?
Nah, go for it.
So if this were focused in as, like, either a wide or, tightly cropped on, so if I actually pulled this out to, like, a square format or anything and kind of brought this all in to them, then you end up with something, like, very interesting, and it could be shot anywhere, and it looks more compelling, and, like, it really focuses in on the shapes and what you're creating there. That would be kind of for a studio shot for me, that would be the kicker. And also making sure that they're not mirroring with their pose and kind of, like, copying each other, basically.
Right. I definitely agree with that. Tighter crop helps tremendously, especially in the studio. This lighting situation, I think, when you're seeing their feet, you're seeing their full body, would be much more appropriate outside the studio, on site.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
I think that's it, though.
That's good.
Cool.
Yep.
Good job, Jeff. This is Lori Spencer, lolospencerphotography.com. Is this our last? No, we have one more. Okay.
More after this. Yep.
All right, I'm ready.
Yeah, I'm ready as well.
Okay. 3, 2, 7.
We got 7 as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Spot on the money. I honestly think this could be like a portfolio image. The only things for me is just the skin. It feels over retouched. Like the way that the skin is blooming and the way that the highlights and everything like that. It just feels over retouched a bit. The blacks are just a little bit too deep. So pulling and kind of balancing everything just a little bit more would be great. And then other than that, the only thing I would kind of do is just enhance the catch lights a little bit. And if you can't get more of it with your lighting technique in camera, then that's very simple to actually do in post. I like the rim off this side. I'd probably tone down that rim light just a little bit too, because it's a little bit hot, especially on her hair.
Yeah, I like the lighting a lot. I think this is phenomenal, especially for this type of headshot. It's great. The thing that stood out to me first when I saw this was just the vignette around the outside edges of this photo. Looks artificial and is a bit distracting to me. And I wish we're so close to seeing the top of her head. We're so close that I would have just backed up just enough so we could see the top of her hair. Or I would have cropped in a little bit tighter if and just made it seem a bit more intentional.
Yeah, either like kind of headshot or kind of, showing the top of the head. I agree there. Instead of eliminating that light or turning this down on this side, on the right side more, I would have just added another light on the left side because I like what it's doing for the hair. Probably toned down just a little bit, but right now it just looks like the right side of the hair is just a lot more white than the left side of the hair. You know what I mean?
Yep. And then just one last thing. Again, my eyes get drawn to the little button pin she's wearing. I would have, if it was something that was meaningful and part of what she, wanted, I would have just made sure it was positioned so you could see it. Otherwise, I would have asked her to take it off.
Yeah. And my one last thing, because you always got to have one last thing. This little piece of hair right below the ear should have been tucked in and behind her head. That to me is kind of distracting and it kind of ruins the hairdo for me a little bit. The way it kind of, do you see that?
Yeah, I definitely do. I mean, we're really having to critique this hard because this is beautifully well lit though. This is great.
It is really nice. So, okay, so eyes brighter, catch lights brighter. All right, we got. All right, Lori, that's a really nice photograph. You're so close to like popping this in your portfolio.
Sure.
Okay.
And one last one, right, Jose?
Last one, Jose C. Ambrosio Photo Films. Okay, I'm ready.
Okay.
Count it?
Count it down, I guess?
Count it down. You count it.
3, 2, 1. Give me a 5. It's just because you're a jerk.
I'm not being a jerk.
I'm just kidding. So there's a lot here that could be very easily changed to take this from a 3 or a 5 to a 6, 7, 8.
Carlo's laughing at your comment right now still.
Who is? You are?
Carlo is. He's just like dying in the background.
So very first thing that stands out to me is that wall. You just got to find a simple, if you're for a headshot, you should be able just to find a plain backdrop or wall. I feel like, and so that would have been something I would have really done. You could have pulled her further away from the wall, and then when you zoomed in and gotten that compression, you might not have seen that bottom as much, or just kind of look around the room and find a simple wall. That would have helped tremendously. I feel like by having that wallpaper border at the bottom, it takes it really down to, takes it down several notches right away. Other than that, the hair, the flyaways, or the kind of the hair going all over the place is quite distracting to me. The one light though, it's great. I think the shadows could be a little bit softer, but they don't bother me.
So wait, let me get this right. You think that this photo is what the typical professional would do, so you gave it a 5. You want to readjust that?
So 5 is like average for a professional or average for
a professional. 5 is average for a professional. Like,
yeah, that we could probably. So if 5 is average for a professional, we'd probably go down to your 3. I can see where you're coming from with this.
Are you sure about that? I don't want you to like. Yeah.
You don't want to put me.
So my thought is that it's not. This feels like you're just kind of experimenting with flash, and that's great. I love that, but there's certain kind of dead giveaways that, like Jared said, the background itself. This is a little bit below of what a professional would do, because I would expect a professional to kind of find the right background, and also you're not doing anything to control the flash spill. So while you are bouncing, you're also getting a lot of direct light directly off the camera flash, and you can see that in the catch light on the face, or catch light in the eyes. You can see the actual flash is spilling directly into her eyes, and that's what creates this kind of partially, directly lit and partially bounced look. And the background is the exact same brightness as everything else. Like Jared said, we didn't tone down we didn't fix the hair. The pose is a little bit off. So there's quite a few kind of areas of improvement that we can get to kind of what, in my mind, what would be a typical professional would do.
So let me push back just a teeny bit, just for fun. If you had this exact same photo, but just had a clean backdrop and clean hair, those two things alone, what would it do for you?
Probably a 4.
Okay.
The light would have been like the 5. Like if the light were a little bit brighter on her, and then it was well lit and it was well kind of, it's a little bit dark right now, the overall image.
Mm-hmm.
So the light quality and light direction would have brought it to a 5 for me.
Cool. All right.
Is that fair? Am I being a
I think
jerk?
that's fair. No, I do think it's fair. No, I think so.
All right. Well, I'm going to close this one out. Jared,
Yeah.
we super appreciate you joining us. Oh, I totally slammed the mic right now. That was going to be really loud. Anyway, go online. Be sure to give Jared a thanks for joining us. You can follow him on Instagram at jmgantphotography. Once again, thank you very much for joining us, Jared. And that's it, guys. So
My pleasure.
we'll see you guys in the next episode.